Hello everyone, and welcome to Lesson 7.2B. I've entitled this video, A Powerful Remedy. This video is going to cover pages 187 to 189. The Constitutional Convention. Although the American Revolution led to a union of 13 states, it had not yet created a nation. Some leaders were satisfied with independent state governments that were similar to the old colonial governments. Others wanted a strong national government. They demanded a change in the Articles of Confederation. Among the leading Americans supporting reform were James Madison, a Virginia planter, pictured on the right, and Alexander Hamilton, a New York lawyer, pictured on the left. Question 1. For the leaders who wanted to make changes in the Articles of Confederation, what was the biggest change they wanted to make? They wanted to make our government a much stronger national government. The convention begins. In September 1786, Hamilton called for a convention, or meeting, in Philadelphia to discuss trade issues. He also suggested that this convention consider what possible changes were needed to make, quote, the Constitution of the federal government adequate to the exigencies needs of the Union. George Washington at first was not enthusiastic about the meeting. Then news of Shays' Rebellion made Washington change his mind. He agreed to attend the Philadelphia Convention, and the meeting took on greater importance. Question number 2. What does the word convention mean? That is a meeting. Question 3. What founding father, who you saw fight for Washington in the crossing, voted for a convention in Philadelphia to make it changes in the Articles of Confederation? That is Alexander Hamilton. Question 4. Why did Washington flip-flop on the idea of holding a convention to look at the AOC? He flip-flopped because at first he wasn't for it, but after he saw what happened with Shays' Rebellion, he realized, like many Americans, oh, maybe the AOC is not equipped for our country. The convention began in May of 1787 and continued through one of the hottest summers on record. The 55 delegates included planters, merchants, lawyers, physicians, generals, governors, and a college president. 3 of the delegates were under 30 years of age, and one, Benjamin Franklin, was over 80. Many of the delegates were well educated. At a time when few people went to college, 26 of the delegates had college degrees. Question number 5. Who was the oldest member at the Constitutional Convention? Benjamin Franklin. Question 6. What role did Franklin play at the convention? He played the role of peacemaker, meaning that, in those hot temperatures, and these were proud, accomplished men, sometimes their tempers got the better of them. And Franklin was known for being able to crack a joke or to say some sort of sagely witty thing that would sometimes calm the spirits of the people there. And you saw that in the movie 1776, how he had that way about him. Question 7. What occupation did a majority of the 55 members have at the convention? A majority of them, 31 if you look at this pie graph, 31 of them were lawyers. And that's important if you're going to make a new constitution, that they have a concept of the law. Question number 8. What 4 characteristics did the 55 men have at the convention? Number 1, they were all white. 2, they were all males. 3, they were all educated. And 4, they were all respected members of their communities. Some would say the cream of the crop. And these were people that the states wanted to have represented at that group. Native Americans, African Americans, and women were not represented at the convention. These groups were not considered part of the political process at that time. Having Washington and Franklin at the convention guaranteed public trust. Trust was important because the convention did not just amend or revise the Articles of Confederation, it produced an entirely new constitution. Some question whether the convention had such authority. Question number 9. Which 3 groups of people were not represented at the convention? Native Americans, African Americans, and women. Question 10. Why was it important that both George Washington and Benjamin Franklin were at the convention? By having these 2 trusted people there, then the public realized, okay, this meeting has some real importance and truth behind it, and we believe that George Washington and Benjamin Franklin will have our best interest in mind. And so this gave the meeting some credibility just by having those 2 people there. Question 11. We've had this word before. What does the word amend mean? It means to revise, to fix, to make better. Question 12. Quickly, the men decided that instead of just fixing the Articles of Confederation, they would do what? They would create a brand new constitution. Yet, the work went on. Two men from Philadelphia also had key roles. James Wilson did important work on the details of the Constitution, and Gouverneur Morris polished the final draft. Question 13. What two big roles did James Wilson play at the Constitutional Convention? Well, number one, he's often called the details guy because he made sure that a lot of the important details that needed to be in the Constitution were in there. And secondly, he had a big part in how our president is selected, the roles that the president plays, the powers they have, and how they're actually elected. So James Wilson, and you might remember him from 1776, he was the guy that broke the tie-breaking thing in Pennsylvania, Judge Wilson. He is an important member, and he spoke the second most at the Constitutional Convention. And the one guy that spoke more than him was the guy on the right here, Gouverneur Morris, who's often called the penman of the Constitution. And that calls for 14. What big role did Gouverneur Morris play at the convention? He authored much of the words in the Constitution itself. He wrote the preamble, and he wrote a lot of the words. He made the final draft sound that much more polished than it had been before. James Madison, who was a keen supporter of a strong national government, kept a record of the convention's work. Madison is often called the, quote, father of the Constitution because he was the author of the basic plan of government that the convention adopted. Question 15. Who is called the father of the Constitution? James Madison. 16. Why is it James Madison called the father of the Constitution? Well, James Madison realized something that many smart people realize. If you come to a meeting prepared and you speak early and often, people will often defer to you and be like, okay, you clearly know more about this subject than I do. You see, James Madison went to the convention days ahead of schedule, and he researched all the books about governments of the past from ancient Rome and Greece. And so he came to the convention armed with all this information, and so he sounded like the smartest person in the room, even though he didn't always do a lot of the talking. He realized, if I appear smart, and I am smart, people are going to go along with me. And he is the bookworm of the convention. The convention organizes. The delegates chose George Washington to lead the meetings. Delegates also decided that each state would have one vote on all questions. Decisions would be based on a majority vote of the states present. Sessions were not open to the public. In fact, the windows were closed in the sweltering heat to keep anyone from listening in. This made it possible for the delegates to talk freely. Question number 17. Who was selected to be the president of the convention? George Washington. Question 18. How would the voting work for the states at the convention? Well, unlike the Articles of Confederation, yes, each state would have one vote, but decisions would be made on a majority vote. So if something were to pass, it could pass 7-6 instead of the 9 votes that were required at the AOC, or even 13 out of 13 for changes to the AOC. 19. Why were the meetings held in secret? They did not want the public, the press, getting in and taking down notes and saying, oh, this person said this and this. They wanted to be able to speak freely and openly and let all ideas be heard. The Virginia Plan. Edmund Randolph of Virginia opened the convention with a surprise. He proposed the Virginia Plan that called for a strong national government. The plan, which was largely the work of James Madison, created a government with 3 branches: a 2-house legislature, also known as bicameral, a chief executive chosen by the legislator, and a court system. The legislature would have powers to tax, regulate trade, and veto state laws. Voters would elect members of the lower house of the legislature. The members of the lower house would then choose members of the upper house. In both houses, the number of representatives would be proportional, or corresponding in size to the population of each state. This would give a state such as Virginia many more delegates than Delaware, the state with the fewest number of people. Question number 20. Edmund Randolph proposed the Virginia Plan. What kind of government did it propose? It called for a strong national government. Question 21. How many branches of government would the Virginia Plan have? It would have 3: a legislature, an executive, and a judicial. Question 22. What does the word proportional mean? That means corresponding in size, meaning with states with more people would get more representatives than states with small populations would get fewer representatives. Question 23. How would the number of representatives each state would receive vote in the Virginia plan? Well, as I mentioned, states with more people would get more representatives. States with fewer people would get fewer representatives. Delegates from the small states objected. They preferred a system in which all states had equal representation. Opponents of the Virginia plan rallied around William Paterson of New Jersey. On June 15th, he presented another plan. This plan amended the Articles of Confederation, which was all the convention had the power to do. The New Jersey plan. Under this plan, the legislature would have a single house, with each state having one vote. Patterson argued that the convention should not deprive small states of the equality they had under the Articles. The New Jersey plan gave Congress the power to set taxes, regulate trade, and elect an executive branch made up of more than one person. In sum, the New Jersey plan favored a more powerful government than existed under the Articles, but a less powerful government than the Virginia plan proposed. Question number 24. Why did heavily populated states such as Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts like the Virginia plan? Well, they liked it because it gave more power to the more populated states, which is why it was opposed by the Virginia plan, a smaller populated state such as New Jersey. Question 25. What were three major differences between the New Jersey plan and the Virginia plan? Well, number one, under the Virginia plan, the legislature would have two houses or be bicameral. Under the New Jersey plan, they would have one house or unicameral. The second major difference that would be there is that each state would have one vote under the New Jersey plan, where in the Virginia plan, it would be based on the number of representatives that your state had. So the more populated states would have more votes. Under the New Jersey plan, each state would have just one vote. And three, another major difference is under the Virginia plan would have the executive or the president picked by the members of the legislature. Under the New Jersey plan, the executive branch would be made up of more than one person. So you wouldn't have just one president, you'd have a group of people making up the presidency or the executive branch. Question 26. Why did the states with smaller populations favor the New Jersey plan? Well, as we've mentioned, under the Virginia plan, states with more people were going to have more power. So this made states like New Jersey equal with states like Virginia and Pennsylvania that had more people. Well, thank you for watching. Before we go, Virginia plan or New Jersey plan? Let's compromise. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.